Good morning, Cheri. How are you doing?
Hey Kim, pretty good. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Awesome.
Hey, I'm glad you have that QR code up there because I kind of wanted to talk about that first thing off this morning because this is the survey that we're asking people to do. And it does not take very long to do. We've already had a couple of people test drive it, and it only what would start what did we decide about 10 minutes?
It was between 10 and 15.
10, 15. Yeah. So it doesn't
Yeah.
take long to do it all. And the purpose of it is to help parents with their anxiety, if you will. And we're just looking for some empirical data to, or data, I don't know how you say it, about parenting and what parenting styles work for you and what has helped alleviate the anxiety that parenting does cause. Because we all know parenting is stressful. It's your number one priority. It is the most important job you will have is parenting. And so I'm not to add any stress to anybody, but
Yeah, yeah, that
that's
low
the
pressure,
purpose.
low pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. But and we just want to gather some information. So if you would be so kind as to scan that and then take the little survey and we can get back to you if you want. It is anonymous. We're not collecting your phone numbers. I don't have time to call you all, so let's not worry about that.
Yeah, not a thing.
I just want to know your answers. I don't, yeah. Unless
Right,
you want to
right,
have a conversation, there is a question where you can answer that if you want, but for the
right.
most part, we're not
We
looking for that.
we are looking for a few people to interview about their, more in-depth experiences. But Kim, you're exactly right. What we want is some more empirical information. We want some to approach this a little bit more scientifically. Because right now, as we were talking about a little earlier, like I'm dealing all the time with parents who are they're coming to me with like some very interesting questions, and when I'm saying like, well, where did you get your parenting advice? They're saying it answers like TikTok, and it brings up a very interesting concept. Kim, have you ever heard of the term projective knowing?
No.
Okay, projective knowing is something that it basically is what it says. We're projecting what we know onto the people closest to us. And so
Oh,
I
okay.
know what you know, and you know what I know, and that's all we know. That's interesting, and it's usually incorrect. And what it does, though, is you're more likely to trust a complete stranger than you are somebody you know very well, because I know what you know, and I don't know that, so how could you know that? For
Mhm.
instance, if my husband came running in and said, "Honey, aliens have just landed in the yard. The spaceship is squashing the garden," I'd be like, "Ah, you're such a joker," right? The neighbor down the street that I don't even know their names came running down and said, "Ah, aliens have landed." I'm gonna believe them.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's so true though. And yeah,
So
that's
we've
amazing.
got a whole generation of people now that are turning to complete strangers, and they have no idea what these people's background, their success rate with these parenting techniques, where they even
Mhm.
got the techniques, and they're more likely to take advice from that stranger than they are even call their own parents or grandparents and say, "Hey, how did you handle this?" Because
Right. And
because
your parents, yeah.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, your parents and your grandparents are probably going to be your best resource as far as parenting because they know your disposition.
Oh,
Hi. Oh,
hello.
mine'll do it too in a minute now. But it's like my mom was the one that I would call and ask about parenting advice. But then again, I'm not of the generation that thinks that my parents traumatized me and ruined me, and I'm never going to do anything like my parents did. Because my mom was a pretty smart lady.
Right. Well, that's because we are, Gen Xers, we are actually the generation that has ruined the world.
We
So
have.
we get that.
Mhm.
I understand, I can appreciate that, heaven forbid, you have to go through any kind of pain as a human being, because that's not going to happen in the real world.
Right.
And
There's
and
so much.
and I don't even know how, like, as as generations, how we got there. But back to the survey, like the whole point of this is that some parts of the changes that the new parents are trying to make are beautiful and are
Hmm.
wonderful and are working and need to be embraced, and some parts are not. And I and you, Kim, I know we've talked about this a lot. We would like to know a little bit more about, okay, what's working and why, what's not working and why, how do we
Hmm.
replicate the things that are working, and how do we like kind of gracefully back out of the pieces that don't. So because like so many things, it should be the balance, you know. We have
Hmm.
conversations about Eastern versus Western medicine, and the truth lies in the middle. And it's, I feel it very much, it's kind of the same thing where let's take the good of both and figure out, because I've got a lot of parents that I work with that are like their marriages are crumbling, their lives are falling apart because they've allowed these little tyrants to take over their entire world.
Hmm.
And we need to figure out a way to kind of back down from that.
Yeah. And a lot of the trends that we're seeing on the TikTok, I mean, it's called TikTok trends for a reason. Um, so they're taking all this advice, like you said, from complete strangers, and some of these complete strangers don't have any data to back up what they're saying. They haven't done studies. It's all anecdotal information that maybe they're getting from their own practices, or the information I might be sharing is anecdotal as well because it's my, you know, 30 years experience in the classroom. And I do have a master's degree in education, so I am somewhat of an expert on education, but I'm not the expert on your kid. You are. And so, why would we take, like you're saying, words from somebody we don't even know, who doesn't know how you interact with your children, and then wants to completely upend that to validate their own importance of, see, I told you my parenting technique is the best because everybody says so. Well, I have yet to find this everybody. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
when we were doing some of the preliminary research for putting together our study, you know, you and I actually have done quite a bit of research on research. Neither one of us have been able to find anything that supports any of this.
Mm-mm.
So far, all of it's anecdotal. And then, like, I'm sorry, apparently
He
Ralphie has
agrees.
he has things to say. But the like, okay, so why would anybody listen to you and I over TikTok? Well, number one, you and I are saying things like listen to your gut, trust
Hmm.
yourself. Let's get back
Exactly.
to a little bit more of some common sense parenting. Use some logic. Like you were saying, Kim, everybody is different. Everybody's parenting should be a little bit different. Like to say, "Oh, I am authoritarian," or "I am authoritative," or "I'm whatever you want to say." Okay, there are certain moments when you should be.
Hmm.
Absolutely. There are
Hmm.
certain moments when you should be permissive, where it should be like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't care. You can do that right now. It's not a big deal. And there are probably some moments when it's okay to be like, I don't care what you're doing. Leave me alone. I need a moment. And
Right.
that's okay too, as long
Hmm.
as everything is balanced.
Right.
And
Well, and even some of those moments where you say, okay, I need a moment. Some kids might be hurt by that. It might hurt their little psyche for a minute, but they're going to get over it because you show them how much you love them and how compassionate you are for them, that you are gentle with them 95% of the time. So that kid knows, okay, wow, that really hurt me when my mom said that to me, but I do know she loves me. And like we were talking with the decisions that the other day, where giving the kid too many decisions to make causes problems for that poor kid. And so the parent needs to make the decisions. The parent needs to be the parent and not the friend.
exactly. And I want to touch base on something that you just said right now about um, the hurting their psyche. You know,
Hmm.
oh, mommy, I need to. This is part of having a healthy attachment with your kids, is that
Hmm.
consistency that you get to say, hey, wait a minute, that's a boundary. I need a space now. And
Hmm.
then you come back. And
Right.
it is that consistency in coming back that increases the attachment and increases the kiddo's ability to then go on and form secure attachments throughout their life. You know, hey, somebody I love
Mhm.
dearly, somebody I depend on, goes away and comes back, can get
Mhm.
mad, can forgive.
Mhm.
These, you know, like these are normal expressions. And
Mhm.
the idea that like you were saying, this should be the most important job. But the thing we have to remember is this is a brief career. This is not the rest of my life.
Yeah, and
I
you were saying that the other day, and it kind of hit me that, yeah, they're an infant, not even a year, or not even a year, they're an infant. And then they're a toddler for just a couple of years. And when you think about the grand scheme, man, is it really that big a deal? You know, let the kid paint, let the kid,
Right, exactly. But if you think about it, like look at how much look at how much the job of parenting changes from having a 1-year-old to a 10-year-old. Okay.
Exactly.
And then
Yep.
a 10-year-old to a 20-year-old. Okay.
Hmm.
And if you're still doing a lot of parenting at a 20-year-old, you know,
Yeah.
and this is obviously, you know, like this should be like just a disclaimer we put across. Like this is obviously, you know, not taking into account anybody who might have disabilities and all of those things.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But if you've got a perfectly healthy, normal
Yeah.
20-year-old that
Define
you're
normal.
parenting, right, then we have a problem. And
Well, and then even then, because being a teacher, my goal was teach them all. All children can achieve at high levels. That is including those kids with disabilities. Now, just because maybe their high is right here, they can get to here. I'm not asking them to go here, but for them, this is a high level. They can do that.
absolutely,
And so I
absolutely.
think everybody is capable of a high level. We just have to stop putting the bubble wrap on them.
It is, I always thought as a parent, it was my job to work myself out of a job.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yep.
And like you have to keep that in mind is that, I mean, like if you friend now, you will parent forever. And if you
Hmm.
parent now, you get to friend when it's appropriate.
Right.
Um, so yeah, there's just so many little nuances too. Like I want more information, and I would really like more information from people who are in the trenches now. The people that
Hmm.
I'm working with in the trenches that are in distress, that are coming to me saying, I don't know what to do. Well, like I would
How
like
sad
to
that it's
know
gotten to that point, though.
I know, but there are plenty of people, even more people that aren't out there. So, you know, like we're asking you people in the trenches, please take a few minutes,
Yeah.
help
I feel
these
like that's what we're here for. I mean, that's what our goal is to, we're not telling you how to do it, that, oh, you have to follow these guidelines because those guidelines aren't for everybody.
right.
Because
They
if, mhm,
they vary from child to child. You can have a set of house rules for each kid in the house and have them
mhm,
be different because each kid is different, each stage of development
mhm,
is different. The way you interact with each other, you know, your relationship with each child should be different.
mhm.
So like but getting more actual empirical information would be very, I mean, like that's benefits everybody. So
Yeah. And like I said, I would hope that we could build a, goodness.
sorry.
I would hope that we could build like, that community where parents can jump in and talk to each other and say, this worked for me, try this. Or, yeah, that doesn't work for me. But I just don't want parents to think they're victims,
No,
that, oh my
and
gosh, that is, and then excuse after excuse after excuse for why that won't work. Well, my kid doesn't this, my kid can't that. It's
right,
like,
right,
okay, but let's find out where it can because you are the parent.
right.
It's
And
your job to accommodate, to make accommodations, speaking as a teacher where I had to make accommodations for this, that, and the other, that, yeah, the oldest kid could do this and that because he's athletically inclined. Your middle kid, yeah, they're the pleaser because, that's how we roll. and middle kid. And so their sensibilities will be different. So like you were saying, they're going to have a different rule. They won't maybe get to do this because it's not in their wheelhouse.
Well,
This is though.
okay, think like this is the way life operates. When you are 5, you get to do certain things that a 1-year-old can't and won't do.
Right.
The 5-year-old, though, on the other hand, is not allowed to drive
Right.
because of lots of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to kind of back our parenting back down to where it makes a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a one size fits all. It shouldn't
Right.
be.
Right.
Um,
Well, okay, go back to, we can compare that way back too. Potty training, you might have three, four, five, six kids. They're not all potty training at the same time or at the same rate. One
right.
might be at 1 year, one might be at 3 years. They
But
all walk, they all
here's the
walk, but they didn't walk at the same time. They're
here
all built different.
and the like some of the accommodations we're making for kids who have, I don't even want to call it a disability. Like
No, yeah.
you might have certain tendencies that would line up with a certain diagnosis, but if you don't have them to a certain level, a certain degree of distress, a certain degree of dysfunction, then you're not clinically diagnosable. Okay, and that's a very important distinction. Just because somebody has some kind of tendencies does
Hmm.
not mean that, oh, well, okay, so, no, it's all right. You don't have to be potty trained until you're 10 or 11 because, you have some autistic tendencies.
Yeah.
Okay, if we're gonna take it that far, then let's suit up and do the whole thing because you don't get all ways. And I would like to say that I'm not, but I'm actually working with people who it like they don't see a problem having 10 and 11-year-olds who are not potty trained.
And then I go back to, so I'm sure the parent is coming from a place of love and protection. I'm going to give them that grace. But when
Absolutely.
you step back and you think about the disservice you're doing to that poor kid, the indignity that you're kind of shoving on that poor kid. Because why? Because you need attention, the parent needs attention, the parent needs
If I'm the only person they're getting attention from, then that's not really, you know.
right, but now you get to play the martyr because you're telling all of your friends and family how hard you work and what
But
you're
I don't
doing for
think
your poor child. And
And I don't think, like in a lot of cases, I think that it's more like of an embarrassment where it is very much kept. This is like, in the closet. This is we don't bring this out and share this with anybody. And at least, I mean, and I've got 3 or 4 families. This is not just a single case.
mhm,
And like I've asked, like, well, is your family supported? And well, they don't know. I'm like, oh, well, okay.
yeah,
So again, like that, this is where more empirical information would be very helpful.
exactly. And
Not
again, I would want to talk to those parents. I would want to help them to understand, you're not in this alone. Um, and I hope I don't sound harsh on those parents, but at some point, you know, you do have to realize that maybe you do have to do something a little bit differently, right?
I would hope.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to be harsh on those parents because there might be something. And it might be a physical thing. They
Well,
might
that's
have an
the
allergy to
right.
something. Who knows?
The the first thing that I tell anybody with that is go to the doctor, and we need to make sure
Hmm.
there's not a medical condition underlying it
Exactly.
because you're right. Sometimes, but if that's the case, then I'm not the right doctor.
Yeah, yeah. I
So.
keep thinking Munchausen keeps going through my head with something like that.
And again, like I'm sure there are people that have that motivation, that have
Yeah.
that,
See how
but
cynical I am right now?
well, let's not be cynical.
I'm not blaming the
Let's
parents. I'm not blaming the parents because
so
we're all doing our
parents, if
best.
you're out there and you're paying any attention at all, please click on the QR code. We would love to get some actual data. We didn't write this survey. These are actually clinically approved surveys that we I mean, like we even had to buy them and get the permission, and we've gone through the universities to get the IRB approval. So, um, please help us out. And I'm gonna leave this up for
Yeah.
a second while I figure out what I'm doing here.
And hopefully we can get, and again, we're not judging. I was not the perfect parent. I will be the first one to tell you that being from Gen X, I probably have ruined my children's lives. Gen X, I ruined the world.
Yep,
I own that. So please don't think that we're trying to judge anybody. Like I said, this is anonymous. We're only interested in answers and numbers, not who.
right,
Um,
exactly.
Again, unless you want to have that conversation and have an interview a little bit more in depth then. But you are the most powerful person in your child's life. So just parent. Parenting
Just
is not a
parent.
trend.
Parenting is not a trend.